outrage over the Star College swimmer sentenced to 6 months in jail after his conviction for sexual assault. Critics slamming the sentence as too lenient, and comments from the swimmer's father adding fuel to the fire. ABC's Matt Gutman has all the latest. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, George. The crime was bad enough. That swimmer found beside his unconscious victim by a dumpster. Now, he tried to flee. Two Good Samaritans tracked him down. And in sentencing, his father lamenting that his son's life is ruined because of 20 minutes of action. And now anger is turning towards the judge also. This morning, public outcry is mounting at the judge who sentenced star swimmer Brock Turner to only 6 months in jail for a drunken sexual assault outside a Stanford University campus party. A remove Judge Aaron Persky petition already garnering almost 250,000 signatures. The district attorney telling me they had expected a much harsher sentence.
How many years have you been asking for?
I wrote a very lengthy brief and I asked for 6 years in prison.
But the judge ruling that a prison sentence would have a severe impact on Brock. Outrage mounting also at this letter. Turner's father submitting it to the court at sentencing, begging for leniency for his son, writing the guilty verdict and its many consequences would be a steep price to pay for 20 minutes of action. But it's another statement read at sentencing. It's having a wider impact now. The victims directed at the man who assaulted her. Among her words, I read something that I will never forgive. I read that, according to him, I liked it.
It was one of the most eloquent and articulate letters I have ever read. I don't think anything like it has ever been written.
Reading the statement in court, Turner's victim said that hours after the assault, I wanted to take off my body like a jacket and leave it at the hospital with everything else. Millions clicking on her letter online.
Were you surprised when she asked the judge to actually address him personally, just to look directly at him as she delivered it?
I wasn't surprised, but I was really pleased because it's really hard for victims to come into court and face their perpetrators.
Now, at sentencing, Turner said he could barely live with himself for having inflicted pain on someone else. But the DA tells me he has not once apologized for the assault itself. Now, with good behavior, he could be out of jail within 3 months or about the time that classes resume here at Stanford. George.
Okay, Matt, thanks very much. Let's talk about this now with Nancy Grace, the host of Nancy Grace on HLN. And Nancy, thanks for joining us again this morning. So the judge says he was just following the recommendation of the county probation department, known in the past for being respected, fair, was a sex crimes prosecutor. But boy, he's now facing this recall effort. How do you explain all this?
You know what? There is no logical explanation for what he did. This judge, Aaron Persky, I believe, should be removed because not only did he ignore the state and their request for 6 years behind bars, and I want to correct something I heard earlier. When the passerbys, two guys went by on bicycles, they looked over, and the perpetrator, and he is a perpetrator, a jury found him guilty on 3 felony sex attacks on this girl. He wasn't beside her at that moment. He was on top of her, and she was naked from about the bra down, on the ground, on the dirt, the pine straw, by a dumpster. He wasn't just standing there. He was on her. They pull back. He jumps up and runs. He knew he had done something horribly wrong. Now, not only did the judge ignore the state recommendation, and I don't say the judge has to always agree with the state, but this is the law in that jurisdiction. The California Assembly said these felonies are punishable up to 10 years each, 10 to 14 years. He ignored the Assembly, which is us, the people. He ignored a jury that sat there and heard the evidence and returned these verdicts. And in my mind, and most important, the crime victim. He ignored her. I've dealt with so many rape victims, and I can't tell you what it takes to go through what they go through. And to have it just dismissed, this guy's going to probably do 3 months in county jail. Really? It's absurd.
Her statements become a manifesto for so many. Really never heard anything like that.
You know, that letter that she wrote was so powerful, especially when she said To all the crime victims out there, when you are lonely, when you are sad, when you feel like nobody believes you, I am with you on those nights, and I can speak from my own experience. Crime victims suffer not just during the crime, but on and on and on, especially rape victims. And for the father, I know he loves his son, but to call a sex assault down on the ground by a dumpster, to call it action, his son got some action? I mean, that really shed light on it. And another scary aspect, this may never have come to light if the father had not written that letter. The letter goes on to say, now my son won't eat his favorite pretzels and ribeye steak. Really?